cool recipe today. We're going to be making Bidoof peanut butter pretzel tart. This is within the realm of possibility for anyone to make, so I don't want you to be intimidated by the fact that it may look like it's a little complicated. What it is a peanut butter and chocolate tart. The crust is made out of ground up pretzels with brown sugar, and it looks like Bidoof, right? I've been a Pokemon player since Red and Blue. My nephews all play Pokemon, and this is from the My Pokemon baking book, and I've been eyeballing this recipe in particular because Bidoof is a little bit of a meme, right? If you lose to a Bidoof, you just are not very good at the game, or someone has just really outsmarted you. So when I saw that there was this classic combination of peanut butter and chocolate, and it was Bidoof, I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to try this. Let's go ahead and hop into the kitchen, guys. Follow along. Don't be intimidated. You can definitely do this too. To get started making this tart, we're going to make a pretzel-based crust. So we're going to take 2 cups and put them in the food processor. And then we're going to add to that 3 tablespoons of packed light brown sugar. And then we're just going to chop all this up until we get a fine crumb. Now to this mixture, we're going to add 6 tablespoons of melted butter. And then we're just going to give it one more quick pulse until this comes out with the texture of very damp sand. Now we're going to add our pretzel crumb mixture to a 9-inch tart ring. And now we're just going to essentially just mash this around so that it fits in and sticks to the sides of the tart ring. And you can apply a fair amount of pressure to make this happen. You want this to be as absolutely solid as possible. And once we get it really good and distributed, I'm actually going to use a piece of glassware to really mash it down. By the way, totally just a YouTube brag. But I got this at the Southern Exposure Bar in McMurdo Station in Antarctica when I worked there. And I think that bar is actually closed down now. I don't think it even exists anymore. So go ahead and just use whatever glassware you have on hand to really get this pressed down and form a solid sheet of crumb and butter. I have finished patting in the crust, and now I've preheated the oven to 350 degrees. And so we're just going to pop this in for about 15 minutes. I've taken the tart shell out of the oven, and I'm going to let that cool all the way back to room temperature. And in the meantime, I've got an 8-ounce block of cream cheese. And to that, we're going to add a cup of creamy peanut butter. And then we're going to put in 1/4 of a cup of light brown sugar. And with the paddle attachment, we're just going to blend all this together on medium until it's fully combined. Next up, we're going to add in a cup of confectioner's sugar or powdered sugar. And we're going to beat this on medium-low until it gets fully combined. And then we're going to up the speed and whip it for about 8 to 10 minutes until it gets light and fluffy. When the peanut butter mixture is done, it should have reverted back almost to a peanut butter consistency. It'll go through a few different phases, but you want it to be a solid peanut buttery consistency like this. Now we've got a cup of heavy cream, and we're just going to whip that to stiff peaks with a hand mixer. Now we're just going to fold our stiff whipped cream in, and we don't want to use any sort of machine mixing here because we want this to maintain as much of its airiness as possible for the filling. So once we get all that in, we're just going to hand mix this with a spatula to get this fully incorporated. This is the consistency you want to go for, almost like a dense whipped cream. Make sure you don't have any solid peanut butter bits left inside, and let's go ahead and fill that tart shell. You really want to make sure the tart shell is all the way back to room temperature before you fill it, because if it's hot, it may cause this mixture to melt. So we're going to go ahead and just look at how creamy that is. That looks really good. So we're going to fill this up, and then we're going to leave about a cup left over in the bowl because we're going to use that to make Bidoof's fur in a bit. And you don't want to overfill this either, so let's see how that does. I filled a piping bag with the rest of the filling with just a large round tip. And now we're just going to go around and we're going to make Bidoof's big ol' puff balls all the way around. In order to make Bidoof's face, we need to make a rudimentary chocolate ganache. So I've got 3 ounces of dark chocolate here, and I'm going to add to that 3 tablespoons of heavy cream. And we're just going to heat that in the microwave. I tend to do about 15-second bursts until you can mix this and it becomes a uniform sort of solid, semi-solid liquid mixture. A couple of cookbook monkey tips here that are not in the cookbook, but that I find are helpful for making recipes like this actually look pretty. Toothpick is your friend, and it's because for this, see how I've kind of like sketched out what I'm gonna do with Bidoof's face? And if I don't do it right, I can just mess it all back up again and smooth it back over. So that's number one. You can also use it to smooth out ganache to give you that even finish if you make a mistake. So the other thing is, I find these little squeeze bottles are great for having more fine control over distributing this. So we're gonna go ahead and now apply this ganache. And so now you can take that toothpick and kind of just manipulate all this to fill in all the little gaps. So you end up with a nice smooth surface across the whole thing. So now let's finish off the outlines that we're going to do here. We'll start with his teeth. And of course, we've got to do his little mask. I finished up the chocolate part here, and the last thing we're going to do with the chocolate ganache while it's still liquid is we're going to go around like a spirograph here and just add some swirls along the border. Now we're going to do the same thing again, but with 1 ounce of white chocolate. This does not need heavy cream. You can just melt it in the microwave until it turns liquid. So for white chocolate, a squeeze bottle is probably not going to do it because it requires a little more force to get it to come out. So you're probably going to have to use a piping bag for this. So we're just going to now fill in the white on Bidoof's teeth. And then we're going to put a couple of dots where his eyes are. And the last thing we're going to do, because of course Bidoof has a big red nose, is I've cut a maraschino cherry in half, and we're just going to plop that right there. And there we go. Now our Bidoof pretzel peanut butter tart is complete. I'm going to put this back in the fridge because I'm going to chill this and we're going to have this for dessert later. I just wanted to show you, I love showing you guys recipes like this because I just want to show you that, like, even though something looks super complicated in a cookbook, if you follow directions and you really take your time, I'm not anybody special. This is something that is within the realm of possibility for any home cook to do. Just make sure you're not rushing yourself and you've got time to work on it. If you've got someone who's got a Pokemon party, this kind of stuff really, I find, it lights up my nephew's eyes. It makes them look, just so excited to see what Unc brought over. If you enjoyed this, check out some of my other videos like this. Another one that is particularly, I think, came out well is my R2-D2 ice cream cake. But check the gaming and the pop culture playlists. And if you have a recipe from a cookbook you've seen that you want to see someone attempt to make, leave that in the comments because I love a good challenge. So I'll see you guys next time. Enjoy the pie.